Hey everyone, and welcome to Tone Chugs in Harmony, the weekly podcast where we discuss all things rhythm guitar. Through our guest, we try to learn unique experiences, insight, and their thoughts on what rhythm guitar means to them. I'm very excited. Today we are joined by Stephen Ward of Bodied Man. Stephen and I have known each other for years. Literally one of the first friends I made when coming out here to Sacramento and getting into the scene. So I'm excited he's here. I'm excited we've been reconnecting. But now I'll let him talk. How you doing, Steven?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. It's crazy to think about how long, we've known each other since back, when did we first start kind of playing around the same scene?
I don't
2000.
even know. I don't even think I was 21 yet.
Yes, I
So,
think I remember that. Yeah,
yeah. What was that church event, Club Retro?
Club Retro. Yes,
That was
yeah,
like
yeah,
the
yeah.
spot for a while for all of us youngins.
hmm
Yeah.
hmm Yeah, with their no cursing policy,
Yep. Yep.
it was amazing. I got a story about that later if you
Nice.
remind me about that.
Yeah, I've known Steven long enough to watch his hair go from his head now to his face. So it's
Yep.
gone down. Yep.
I had the long luscious locks down to my waistline, and then a couple of years back, I noticed a little bit of thinning up front, and I was like, you know what? No, I'm not going through any of the awkward phases. I'm not fucking with that. Just get it all off.
Dude, but you got red hair. You didn't want to go like Devin Townsend, man?
Go the skullet route.
Yeah, just for a
Yeah,
little bit.
I was a consideration, but I think my wife would have objected to that.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Cool, man. So let's talk a little bit in the present. Double Bodied Man. This is your most
Mhm.
recent project.
Yes,
What's
yes.
going on with all
So
that?
I reconnected with my old guitarist Anders. He and I used to play like mid aughts, I think, mid to late aughts. And we had a band called Adosa, which later was known as Legion's Requiem. He left for the military, um, 2008, 9, 10, something like that. Don't quite remember the timeline, but he left for the military, and we haven't really talked much since then, um, just occasionally. But a couple of years back, he messaged me and was like, "Hey, I got a guitar again. I've been writing some music, and like wanted to get your feedback on some stuff." And I was like, "Cool, man. Like, let's like do something with this. This is really cool." Like, Anders has always been a really great idea generator. Like he just sends me riffs and riffs and riffs and riffs, and then I get to take those and kind of like mold them into something that I think is like really cool. Like I write the drums to them, I'll write some of the bass, and I'll write like harmonies. So we started, reconnected a couple of years back. Been releasing a bunch of singles. We actually got an EP that we're working on, instrumental EP, that should be out in the next couple of weeks, actually.
Okay. So there is music out now people can hear.
Correct.
Awesome.
Yes.
All right. I'll make sure to direct people that way. Before we dig into the music, because I'm just curious, the name, where the full bodied man. What
Double bodied man.
Oh, sorry. Did I say full bodied the first time or did I get it right the first time?
You got it right the first time.
Okay. Double bodied man. Explain the meaning behind the name because I'm genuinely curious.
Double-bodied man, I think it's sort of like a reference to like a medical condition where like conjoined twins sort of thing. And it's a reference to like the two of us collaborating, working together to kind of make something that's bigger than the two of us combined,
I love
or the
that.
two of us separately. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. That's why I love asking when you hear a sort of a non-conventional name because I wouldn't have caught any of that, and that's really cool. What were some
Mhm.
early days for you with picking up the guitar and really getting into this genre?
Um, I would say that like when I first started playing guitar, I kind of noodled around in like the rock kind of scene more so. Like I knew Metallica, and like when I heard Metallica, I was like, I want to play that. That sounds really cool. But it was like from Black Album on, that was sort of like my introduction to that style, I guess. It's like I didn't really like venture backwards in time towards like, Master of Puppets until later on. And I started getting into like, rock music, and I was playing like a lot of like 90s grunge rock. Spoon Man was one of the first songs that I learned in drop D tuning. But what got me into metal was my buddy Scott. He introduced me to Strapping Young Lad, Lamb of God, God Forbid, Killswitch Engage. So sort of the pedal toning, like harmonic minor, Phrygian dominant, semi-European style metal was definitely like my gateway into that sort of stuff. Um, a lot of Opeth, fucking still absolute huge fan of Opeth. They are amazing. I just saw them in concert a couple of months ago when they came through Sacramento. Um, but yeah, so that was sort of like the introduction to like metal. Was those handsful of
You
bands.
you actually just reminded me. I've told you this recently, but for the listeners, Devin Townsend is one of my favorite artists. But funny enough, it was Steven who first showed me Devin Townsend. This was back again. We were very young, so I wasn't quite as venturous with metal as I was. I was a power metal kid, and that's power metal and thrash, right? And he showed, my first experience to Devin was fucking the Ziltoid album, and I remember you explaining it to me in your car, and you're like, yeah, dude, like it's this like metal opera about a alien who drinks coffee, which nowadays is I fucking eat that shit up, but I remember like trying to be like, yeah, cool. But in my head, I'm like, I don't fucking care. What is this you're showing me? And then it wasn't until years later I heard Kingdom. I was like, what the fuck is this? And I started going down
Yep.
the rabbit hole of Devin Townsend. And I was like, oh, this is the dude my friend Steven showed me that I just completely dismissed. Um, and
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, how different my life could have been if I was a little more open back then. Who knows? But we all find Devin at the right time, I think, you know?
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
Anyways, that just reminded me of it because you brought up Strapping Young Lad, and even more
Oh, yeah.
reason he should have done the Skullet, man. I'm just saying. It's not too late.
Yeah.
It's not too
Yeah.
late.
Yeah. Yeah.
Devin had bald. Here's the thing. Devin Townsend had bald hair. He grew that shit on purpose, so it was a flex.
Yep.
But
And then he shaved the dreadlocks off and then put them on the puppet Ziltoid for the actual live concerts.
oh
So
shit,
his dreadlocks live on the Ziltoid puppet.
that is incredible.
That guy's just he's just a mad scientist. Like whatever, like he just does whatever the hell he wants, and I love him for that like authenticity and just like his artistry. He's also like I've had the chance to like briefly meet him at like signings or whatever, and he's always like such like a just a genuinely nice dude.
Right. Sorry, everybody. This is now an hour of us just talking about Devin Townsend, apparently. Yeah. Which I feel I could easily do. So, but,
Yeah.
Okay, so that was your introduction. Your buddy Scott.
Yep.
So coming from the rock background, right? How did you find sort of the shift, or what were maybe some key elements in your performance that you're like, oh, okay, I gotta change this up a little bit to play these more Opethy,
Yeah.
Devin Townsend kind of riffs, compared
So-
to Inner Sandman, right?
Yeah. So like technique wise, I'll tell you right off the bat, like I was kind of self-taught with guitar to start, and my right hand was not nearly where it should have been or where it needed to be. So like I had to actually like work a lot on my down picking, like my stamina. I had to work a lot on my like alternate picking as well, because when I first started playing guitar, I didn't really develop my alternate picking. I tried to do like sweep picking, and it wasn't like a natural thought of like, oh, I want to learn sweep picking. It was just like, oh, this seems easy, and like like, and just like conservation of motion. But the problem is like I did not get like develop a strong rhythm feel until I actually started to try and like learn metal, because like I remember going and like riffing with Scott, because him and I would jam together, and like I always felt like I was like kind of falling behind a little bit, because I came from a very strummy sort of background. And I was like, okay, like I gotta like get this down now. So even learning like Lamb of God's 11th Hour, like that was like I was like, I want to learn that song, but then you get into it, it's like dee doo doo dee doo doo da 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 da, and trying to get those, just the consistency of the right hand. That was probably the biggest hurdle for me getting into metal, because like the left hand, I have I've been graced with like long spindly fingers, so legato's never been an issue for me. But the consistency of the right hand was definitely like it needed work.
Right. And I think that, and we've said this on a few other episodes already, but like that is an important value of the right hand because, again, we're talking rhythms here. Leads are a completely different beast, but a lot of these rhythms, not much is going on with the left hand, right?
Yep.
Especially these chuggy or even the, like, again, so many notes were just played there, but most of it is writing whatever the root of the progression is. And then your other
Correct.
fingers are
Yep.
just kind of hitting the melody, if you will. And so you can have this really fast left hand, but if your right hand can't keep up, you know,
Yep.
then there's your problem. Now I have the opposite
Absolutely.
effect where my right hand is much faster than my left hand. So when I try to go the other way into the leads and stuff, I'm just like I don't understand. Give me some hammer-ons, cool, all day. But I still struggle. When you do a run across the guitar, and you're not doing any pull-offs or hammer-ons or anything to make the left hand a little easier is a struggle for me.
Absolutely.
So that's where I got to put more work in. But what would you say was your big sort of aha moment, I guess, when it really kind of all locked in for you? You mentioned Lamb of God. Was there a specific song? Where it just kind of came together where you're like, oh, okay, I understand now.
Yeah, definitely Lamb of God was huge for me because sort of that pedal toning sort of vibe, like that I loved that. I instantly gravitated towards that style. Um, so that's definitely when it locked in for me. And I still go back to some of the Legion's Requiem songs and jam along to them, and they're very like pedal tony kind of style. Like very, you can definitely tell like that's like heavily the influence of those riffs. Yeah, that was definitely like the sort of like aha moment. It was like, especially like learning how to like gallop in between like the downstrokes, like getting that really like fast sort of style down. Uh, like side note, like trying to learn how to play like Meshuggah's Bleed for a Neural DSP cover track. Like that was rough. It
Now,
was so rough.
I had a question, but now I have two questions, so we'll go
Yeah,
with
yeah,
the,
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
reason. Do you do it the way they call it, the Swedish gallop way? So you do the gallop and then the up, so it's a total of down up
Yeah.
down up. Yeah. So
Yeah, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up,
yep.
down, up, down, up. So it's a very like circular motion with the right
Yep.
hand. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Did you find that challenging? Did it
That
and
actually,
I mean kind of in the brain, because like for me, first getting into the Swedish gallop, I want to do that down. I want to do that eighth note down. You know.
I think, I think because you have the background that required the downstroke. Me having more of a background of like the not alternate, but like the sweep picking style, like that for some reason just worked for me. It
Right.
was it was still an effort to get the articulation to really like come through. So it took a lot of like practicing to a metronome and just like clack, 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 and like working up the speed from there. So yeah, it was challenging. But yeah, definitely I do the Swedish gallop more than the typical
Gotcha. Yeah, for me it
gallop
was
like that.
such a
Yeah.
like it wasn't even like it's like, oh, this is easy. Theoretically this is easier, but my brain's like, no, you want to downpick that eighth note, dude. What are you doing? And so it's like it was the constant fight with my brain of like I'm making it harder for myself just because that's what I instinctively wanted to do. And then my second question for you, you've mentioned it a few times, so maybe for those listening who don't know might be curious, explain pedal toning.
So pedal toning is having the like probably most common is having like the lowest open string be sort of like dun 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 dun, that sort of like um consistent note in the background filling in the melody lines that you're playing on your left hands. So you're having the open note, and then you could move of course up to different notes so that way the chord sort of shifts along with the riff. But you usually have just that sort of like note in the background that is your reference point, I guess, or like the where the note centers around, where the melody centers around.
Right. I also love a good riff like that. I feel like In Flames did it really well too. Does it really well.
Yes,
A lot of those
yes.
kind of bands. I think I write a lot of stuff like that as well, especially with the Helium Prime stuff, because I was like, even though it's power metal, there's a lot of mellow death inspiration in there. And it's a cool place to start too. And just for those listening, if you want to like just kind of experiment with riffs, that's a really easy way to do it. Just kind of find that pedal note and then just start hitting, find a minor key you like and just hit notes within the minor key. You see it a lot. People talk about the 5-7-8 of like 2000s metalcore.
Yep.
That's a great way to do it. Down tune to drop D, hit that 5-7-8 and just start having fun.
Hmm.
And just
Yep.
ride that open D. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a technique that has been around. I mean, it's a classical technique. Like they would do that in orchestras. Like it's been around forever. It just works really really well for metal because it keeps that just aggression going. So you can have like double bass in the background. Like it just works.
Yeah. Let's talk about the band, right? What I came to know as Legion's Requiem, but how did it go there? How did your playing affect your songwriting? Which I think you kind of already answered, but if you want to dig a little more into it. Like, did you set out for
So
this band? Oh, you know what? I'm gonna let you talk first. Yeah.
yeah. So I started writing with my buddy Anders, and we definitely had that sort of like um, Swedish death metal, yeah, metalcore, Lamb of God, God forbid, Soilwork, Children of Bodom, even. So like we had these influences, Mastodon, Gojira, like eventually kind of filtering those in as well. Um, and then we got Scott in. I think it was around 2011, maybe. We got Scott in on bass. I mean, I knew Scott since like 2005, which was when he started introducing me to these bands, and but he didn't get into Legion's Requiem until later. But it also was the first iteration. Legion's Requiem was what we named it after. After we had a couple of like lineup changes and stuff and song changes,
I remember you
and
guys as a doso, but
yeah,
Legions is easier for
yeah,
me to remember just because that was the longest form that I knew.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
But I'm pretty sure when I met
Um,
you, it wasn't Legions yet.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It wasn't Legions yet. And there's definitely like there was a shift in the songwriting style around the time when Anders left the band. Um, we like I know I started getting into like Between the Buried and Me and a little bit more of like the progressive metal elements. So just kind of like weird, wacky stuff, trying to add in as much like technical like flair as possible. Um, he wasn't quite as much of a fan of it, so and I know he left for the military not because he wanted to leave the band because of writing difficulties or anything like that. But like, so I started going more that direction where
That'd
it's a
be a
bit
thing,
more.
dude. Like, I can't deal with this. I'm joining the military.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So we I so Scott was also like on the same page as me, loved the progressive kind of stuff, like Between the Buried and Me, whatever. So he and I became like writing partners, like good writing partners for a long time. Um, and then the band, died around 2014, give or take. As bands often do,
Yep.
it
Yep.
happens. But eventually, it was an interesting period of time because around 2014 we had some troubles within the band, couldn't find a drummer to save our lives, and just that sort of just effort kind of like drained us. We tried to get some shows going, and we tried to get some like replacement drummers in the mix, but like nothing solid. So we just ended up kind of like leaving it alone. Scott and I continued to write music, actually with the aspirations of potentially becoming like video game composers.
Oh.
So that was the thing. I still have like a 15 song progressive metal like album that he and I wrote together on my hard drive, which I might follow up with at some point. Um, but yeah, I've since kind of like shied away from the progressive metal stuff. No, well, yeah, maybe. I listen to a lot of Archspire. That's like
Okay.
technical death metal, but
Right.
like, as far as the writing is concerned, my writing style has become more simple later.
Writing simpler songs these days, is it more, you think, just a natural progression as you as a songwriter and discovering that, hey, maybe not every section the riff needs to be 110%, or is it just simply you just don't want to write all that technical kind of progressive stuff anymore?
It's a little bit of both, but there's a third element actually. So Scott and I were writing. So we were actually trying to record this instrumental album I mentioned, and I ended up developing some really bad tendonitis because of it.
Oh man.
It was like we were trying to get stuff ready for the NAMM show, which is a trade show, music trade show that happens in Anaheim every January, and we were trying to get this album ready to showcase to like whoever we could find, artists or manufacturers or whatever we could find, and it was like a straight month of me like it had taken a year to write this thing, and I hadn't really like practiced it as I went because we were just writing and writing and writing, and so I was like learning it and trying to record it at the same time, and so I'd get up, I'd go to work around like 10 o'clock. I'd get off around 7. I'd go home, I'd eat something, and then I would like learn and record the song until about like 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, sleep for a couple of hours, get up and do the same thing like every day. Like, and just that whole process like wrecked my wrist. Like it was like back here behind my thumb and my forearm, just I couldn't hold a guitar neck. And I actually had to like it was so bad that I ended up actually having to put guitar away. Like I couldn't pick up a guitar for the better part of a year while I was just trying to recover from the tendonitis. And which was I would say that it's probably the failure that set me on my current trajectory in my career right now, working in audio and video and like being kind of like in part of the industry in the marketing side. But we can get to that later. So I got this, really bad tendonitis, and I had to put down a guitar. And eventually, like, I got to a point where I was like, okay, maybe I can start kind of playing a little bit again. And so I would play like really simple riffs. Like I was really not trying to like overstretch my hand or like try and stress my wrist out as much as possible. So I started picking up guitar very, very sparingly, kind of play a little bit. If I felt a little tension in my forearm, I'd put it back down again, do some stretches and like leave it alone. So I kind of developed this sort of minimalist guitar style where I was like, okay, I know all the things that I liked to write. Let's try and figure out the easiest way possible for me to get even 80% to where I was at the time. And it's kind of worked since then. And even then, like even now, occasionally I'll still feel a little tweak in my forearm. So I've simplified my playing and my writing because I've been maturing as a songwriter, because it's sort of the natural progression that, I don't like writing as overly complicated stuff as I used to. And then also out of necessity because I'm deathly afraid of getting to a point where I couldn't play guitar again. You know
Right.
what I mean? Yeah.
Steven went too metal, guys. See.
It's too much. It was just too much, dude.
Yep. I remember talking to you once when you still lived in the area, and you mentioned you were moving and you were going to start doing more content and things like that.
Mhm.
How did that sort of change your approach to the guitar, if at all? Like the
That's
mindset
a
or playing?
that's a good question because it kind of I didn't know if I was going to be a guitar player after the tendonitis. Like my identity was so tied into being a guitar player, then not having the ability for a year to do the thing that I loved so much. Um, it forced me to fundamentally shift my idea of who I was and what I wanted to do. So at that point, I knew I couldn't do nothing though. So I got into audio work, because if I'm not going to be able to write music or play guitar, I still wanted to be involved in music, and mixing was something that I kind of gravitated towards. Um, and it wasn't until I started looking, like I actually moved to LA because there were opportunities for me to work in audio in LA, working with some engineers, doing some editing work, a little bit of recording work. And it wasn't until actually I applied to work for Neural DSP, which, if your listeners aren't familiar, they are a company out of Finland that makes guitar amp sims for your computer, so you can play digitally or record or mix with their guitar sims. Um, and it really wasn't until like I was like sincerely thinking about applying that I was like, okay, like I could pick up my guitar, I can kind of try and like I'll just chug out some riffs and like kind of. I actually made like a for the application. I made a song for them to show my chops on how I could like play guitar and I could play cello and I could mix and I could like write drums and all that kind of stuff. I even did vocals for that song too. So doing content for them got me back into playing guitar because I was having to write music again. I was having to learn music again. I was having to showcase their products to people who wanted to play guitar but maybe didn't know or have access to the tools to make really great tones. So that kind of brought me back into the fold and reintroduced me more so to playing guitar than anything else. And it was, yeah, so I would do content for them for the first like 6 or 8 months. I did like 2 pieces of content a week, which was ridiculous. And then we went back to like 1 piece of content a week. So I would, write, record, mix and master a song in like 2 days. Sometimes like the deadline was just so tight that it's like, okay, this is what I got. Which like if anybody out there is having a hard time with writing music, I will say that having constraints and deadlines are things that will absolutely help your creativity and your ability to just make decisions in the moment, trust your gut, put what's in there just out and just see what happens.
Yeah, not to steamroll over your thought,
Yeah, yeah.
but to piggyback off what Steven said, I can agree with that because
Yes.
for a little bit of time I was doing this thing mana riffs where on my
Mhm.
socials I was writing riffs to magic cards, and I haven't really written a song myself in quite a while. And I was feeling that rut, like, man, But by doing these, within a day, I read a whole song accidentally just by trying to do one of these riffs, and I've got like 3 on the back burner of ones I'm finishing up to become full songs. And I was doing all of these like the night before putting them out, and it,
Mhm.
not because I had to, but just because of procrastination. It's like, oh fuck, I got to put one out tomorrow. And I was like, what does this card make me think of? It makes me think of The Faceless. Let me listen to some Faceless songs real quick. Okay, write something like The Faceless. And then it's like, oh, that's actually sick. So, yeah, I'm basically agreeing that, like, man, sometimes you give yourself a deadline and you'll put out, it can help. It can reignite that fucking spark.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. I mean, there was songs that I wrote while working with Neural DSP that I felt it was just like, all right, I'm just shitting this out tonight so I can get it done by the morning and have the video turned around by the afternoon. Like it was just like I just wrote a thing, I recorded it, I put drums to it, I recorded bass, and like I felt like it was almost like no effort. I mean, obviously there's effort, but there's we can get to that. But like I felt like it was like, okay, well, this is not as good as some of the things that I can make given like extra preparation time or extra time for recording or writing. But those were some of my most beloved demos, like or tracks that I wrote. Some of the things like, and even then, like I go back and with a different perspective, I'm like, oh, I get why people liked it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, sometimes you will absolutely surprise yourself with what you can come up with if you just trust your gut and just put things out without overthinking it or procrastinating by perfectionism,
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think if you do that, you're going to fall on an issue that I've been into, and it never sounds how you want it to sound. So you're going to wait till it does. And then I'm still waiting, you know? Now there are ones I've done, and like some of the ones that I said I'm sitting on that I plan to turn to full songs that I'm like, okay, I am going to change this, but it's not like drastically. It's just clean it up a little, you know? But I think that's a little different than sitting on something until it's perfect, you know?
Yeah.
And cool, man. And so real quick before we get too far away, back to the tinnitus. Did I say it right?
Tendinitis.
Tendinitis, yeah. I can't say words, everybody, so I'm sorry that I'm the host of a podcast. But
It's endearing. Don't worry about it.
yeah, and I know by what you showed, it was in your left hand, correct?
Yeah,
but
correct.
still, were there any steps you took to kind of having to, like, was it more just waiting to recover, or any sort of steps you took to kind of get the chops back up and maybe new perspectives on playing from that?
To deal with the pain initially, it was a lot of like stretching and like isometric stretches, and then eventually like some exercises to strengthen the forearm, you know. So like you know, the typical stretch your wrist this way, stretch your wrist that way, and that dealt with the pain initially. And then to get back into the guitar playing, that was just pulling up songs that I used to write or used to play, or like learning some new stuff. At that point I had like 7 and 8 string guitars available to me, so I was like learning some extra stuff from there. Getting back into it, it was just time and dedication, kind of finding that focus that I used to have for it. Like when I was a kid, I remember being able to just sit down and play a song and learn a song for hours at a time, just because it was the thing that was like, oh, this is cool, this is interesting. And I don't know about you, but it's hard to get into that zone sometimes nowadays as I'm older, and like I kind of have like my box that I play in most days, the scales and the things that I go to like on a regular basis. There aren't many songs that I feel inspired to go out and just learn just for the sake of learning anymore. But yeah, trying to find that, getting back into guitar was really important for me. So like, also not being hyper aware of like the amount of time that I was spending on guitar too. Like it's like 5 minutes at first. Like, okay, let's just play guitar for like 5 minutes and then put it down. Being disciplined in a way that I hadn't been before, because when I was recording the album, like I had no discipline at all. Like I was just like, oh no, I just need to get it done. So I'm just gonna, you know, push my way through it as much as possible. And that has hurt me in more than that, you know, like with like exercise even. Like I have a tendency to push myself too far when it comes to like working out, you know, deadlifts or like squat, like any of that kind of stuff. Like I just go, oh, well, you know what? I feel like a little tweak in my back. It's going to be fine. I could do like 6 more reps. And then like suddenly I'm just like lying on the ground and I'm like, it hurts
Right.
to breathe, you know, because my back just spasmed and like just locked up. And I'm like, fuck. So when getting back into guitar, it was definitely a lot of like disciplined practice of like, okay, I could do 5 minutes today and that's it. Like, I know you're going to want to play more because it's fun and it's what you like to do, but like just doing what I could at the time and just being focused on the things that were going to get me back to where I needed to be or where I wanted to be.
Right. Yeah. Very cool. Yeah. And then, to the same for me is like you get set in your ways almost and what you know and what you're comfortable with. So 2 things that have helped me with that is streaming, and song requests. 'Cause I tell people like, you know, like even if I don't know it, like let's fucking learn it. I'll do it. Like, you know, as long, again, I tell people like, don't throw any Archspires at me. Like, I'm sorry, but I can't sight read an Archspire song. But as long as it's not something insane, I can probably do it. So that's been cool because people request stuff that I would probably never try to learn on my own. But again, to go back to it, the mana riffs thing was really helpful for me because I would look at a card, like, what does this card make me think of? So again, using the faceless as a reference, I don't play stuff like The Faceless. So it's a whole writing style I'm unfamiliar with. So I'd go listen to them, maybe look up some tabs so I can break down what they're doing and be like, oh, I see. Oh, clever. And it's been a fun way because I don't know if you've had this struggle, but it's almost like the more knowledge you get with theory, it sometimes hurts you by putting you in these boxes that you forget you're allowed to step out of. I know I've had that struggle. Yeah. Like it wasn't until like the second Helium Prime album, my friend's like, man, you always write the same chords. And I thought about it. And I was like, oh yeah, because I'm not leaving the minor scale. Like I'm just staying in it. And so, but using that as your stepping off point, and again, doing some of these things, and I'd be like, okay, well, this technically isn't in the key, but I like how it sounds, so I'm doing it. And you know, the Mannerist stuff really helped with that. And I even wrote like a doom metal kind of riff, which again, I don't really listen to doom metal, but I was like, oh, because there was a song, you know, we did a riff that I did for this card called Craterhoof Behemoth, and it's this big. The particular one I did was this big woolly mammoth, and for some reason I just thought of a doomy stomping big mammoth, and so I was listening to some doom metal and came up and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. So, or I did one that made me think of like Fear Factory, early 2000s industrial metal. So that helped me, I think, is what I was getting at, of to sort of get outside of my own box, because I think if any of these I was trying to write for my own band, I'd be like, oh, they don't fit the style, so I wouldn't even attempt it, you know.
Sure. Yeah, I think having eclectic listening habits really do help with creativity, because you draw on so many different inspirations and different styles that it pushes you outside of where you're comfortable. Because I mean, like, you know, I got super comfortable listening to like Lamb of God and playing Phrygian Dominant, and like it's like it's my go-to, like, and then it's like, okay, like you listen to something like, you know, Archspire or Between the Buried and Me or Opeth, and it's like, oh, that's different, you know, using like some half diminished, whole tone scales, use some like augmented chords, like, and it really does something for you, because at the end of the day, that like staying within your box is not pushing you to grow any. And to me, like I really value growth and learning and education, and like trying to stretch myself creatively as much as possible, and like having such an eclectic listening, you know, style, it will always, you know, leave so many more options available to you than if you just listen to like your three regular bands, you know,
which I'm sometimes still guilty of.
Totally.
I still listen to Blind Guardian on a regular from high school, but
Sugar.
Yeah. To bring this around, to fit it into rhythm and things like that, everybody, is also, I think, getting stuck in your box. You're not making yourself a better player, because as
Agreed.
Steven just said, you're good at what you're good at, but then that's it. You know, I remember, man, when going back again to the old days, like I grew up in a smaller town out Valley Springs, California. There weren't really metal guitarists in my high school, so like I was kind of it. Like I was playing. I was like, yeah, dude. So I came to Sacramento, like fucking yeah. And then like metal of you guys. I remember there was one particular kid who was like 16. I don't know if you remember the band Malevolent or something, but I remember
rings a bell. Yeah,
he was a fucking little shredder, and I just got humbled real quick. I was like, man, all right. So maybe I'm not that good. But you know, moments like that, I always say, I don't admit it, man. Like moments like that are great. Getting to work with people, maybe better than you is not the right word, but maybe that can inspire you, or you see something you hadn't seen before.
Totally.
I like not being the most complex one in the room, because then I want to not try to be, but thrive to be better because of that environment. So getting out of your box, learning all this stuff, because I know a lot on this podcast, we mention down picking because it's a staple of tight rhythm playing, but you could still down pick and sound like shit. So, and the thing is if you only down pick, that doesn't equal great rhythm player. You know,
Right.
You mentioned Opeth, right? I don't think of Opeth and think of down picks. Not that they don't do it, but it's not the core of their sound. But Michael is a phenomenal guitarist, phenomenal rhythm player. So there's more to it than that. So trying all these different things is a good way to really challenge yourself with that. And remember that it's more than down picks and gallops. And I know I bring them up a lot, but that's because, again, that's what's in my comfort box. I grew up on the thrash, the iced earth, the stuff that really drills that in your brain. So that's my strong point. But it's like I can play stuff like Opeth, but I don't know if not comfortably is the right way to say it, but it's not like walking in like, hey man, play me this Metallica riff. Hell yeah. You know, it's a different thing, but it's still great. I think what I'm trying to get at with everybody, if you're like, where the fuck's he going with this, is like, try different genres, different styles, because there's something to be had for all of it to make you a better rhythm player and just a better guitar player.
Yeah, absolutely. I think something to drill down on is that like your down picking is a tool, right? It's a technique. It's a tool that is in your arsenal. Gallops. I mean, like I was talking with somebody about like blast beats, right? I love blast beats when it is appropriate.
Yep.
When it is like, it's just something about it is just so aggressive and just thundering everything forward. But it's like, if you have a whole song of blast beats, it's like, you know, but like gathering like all of these different eclectic tools to your toolkit makes you a better overall songwriter, musician, like, cause yeah, it's like, hey, I'll even say it, like, it's not just the gallops and the down picking that made James Hetfield a great rhythm guitarist.
Yeah.
It's also like the melodies and the hooks and the chords and the singing. Like it was everything that he had to offer to like the whole of the song that was being created by him and the rest of the band. Right.
Yeah. And on the topic of James Hetfield, right, that's who people think of, right, as when we the down pick, right? But dude, his solo in Nothing Else Matters. He does the middle solo in Master of Puppets, the clean sections, the acoustics. Like, this man is more than just a down picker, you know? And I agree with you. Like that's what made James great. And he was a master of the down picking as well. You know what's funny, though? This is a little tangent. However, I love when people try to, well, James does it this way, so therefore it is law. And sometimes when if you do a Metallica video or something, but what I always love is there's a video from '84, I think, of James Hetfield playing Creeping Death alternate picking. So I'm sorry, everybody, but even James Hetfield has done it. The da 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 da, you know. Even he's done it. Now, then, of course, 2 years later, Master of Puppets tour, there's the '86 video where he's playing it like twice the speed, downpicked. But the point is like, listen, there's many ways to do the same thing, you know.
Yeah.
And it's like even James sometimes alternates, you know. I don't know if he's done it since, but there is video evidence of him doing it, so it's okay.
Yeah,
it's okay.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. That being said, I am a big believer in like, if you can downpick the riff and it's a driving riff, you should. But I'm not gonna say it's law. I'm just saying, if you ask me to record your riff and I can downpick it, I'm probably going to.
Totally.
But then
it gives a consistency to certain things that is just not possible with alternate picking.
Yeah, like the riff of Creeping Death should definitely be downpicked. But even James, at one point, even if it was that one show, he did do it alternate picked. So it's okay.
Yeah,
it's okay.
Yeah, 100%.
Yep. Anyways, yeah, step outside your box, everybody. It's okay. So the content side is a completely different beast, right, than the bands and things like that. So
It is.
but it is a big thing. I mean, it's all of us have had to quickly learn how to edit videos and be in front of a camera when many of us just wanted to write songs and perform. But as it is becoming the normal, if there's any younger listeners out there, like what's some tips for getting started for that if they want to do guitar content?
Don't overthink it. Start with something easy. Start with something like, because I know that I have a tendency to overthink and over prepare content in my head, because it's like, oh well, if I do this, then I'm gonna have to explain this, and if I explain this, then I'm gonna have to talk about the history of that. If I talk about the history of that, then I gotta, and it's like suddenly like this like video that could have been just 8 minutes long suddenly is like 36 minutes long in my head. So I have a tendency to really overthink things. So I would say keep it simple, like keep it real simple. Like my nephew is a drummer here in Sacramento, and he's just been uploading like raw shots of like GoPro footage, like either like from his like little chest mount or from the side during his shows, and it's been getting killer engagement and visibility for his band. And it's low tech. It doesn't have to sound the best. So like, yeah, just pull out your camera, put it in front of you, play your riff or play to the backing track, and just start. And because I think that for people who are just getting into the content game, they sort of overestimate the amount of attention that they will gain at first, insofar as like, the early first months, years that you are doing content is where you should be experimenting with your stuff as much as possible and putting out as much stuff as possible, because one, you are learning every single effort, every single piece that you're putting out, you're learning a new lesson on how to do things properly or how not to do things. And then beyond that, like, you don't have the audience that is going to be hypercritical of you. So like you can kind of get your faux pas out and like get your like kind of garbage out early on, and then really start to sculpt and mold your stuff into something better along the way. So yeah, just put stuff out, put as much stuff as you can out, and really don't take it as seriously as you think you need to.
Not all, but most of my videos that have done the best, and I'm talking more short form content on like Instagram and stuff, are the ones that I just shit out because I was like, I need something today, and
Yep.
I did a video, gallops through the decades, because I've seen like people do like, music through the decades or dancing through the decades, and I was like, gallop riffs through the decades, like fuck it. So I just thought of quick 4 riffs on the spot, and I did it, and it fucking blew up. Of course, most people were mad that I didn't include Iron Maiden in the 80s. I'm sorry. But then people would have been mad if I didn't do Slayer. So it's like, but
Everybody's a critic.
But see, there you go. Like that'll help, man. Do something, rage bait.
Yep.
No, I'm kidding. But
Nope.
not wrong, but it's not.
Don't do things to intentionally.
Don't intentionally
incite
rage,
people.
but yeah.
Yeah.
Because it was, yeah. But my point is like, every time not every time, but sometimes, because like I try to post every day. If I got nothing, I'll just post from a stream. Those usually, do whatever. But sometimes I'll just have a quick idea, and it does super well. So, and I didn't overthink it, as Steven said. And then some of them I do where I'm like, this one's good. This one's good, and nothing. And I'm just like, fuck. Because then you overthink it, you get excited, and then if it does bad, you feel bad. And that's okay. It's still a form of your art. You're still expressing yourself. You're still putting time into it. So I'm not saying like don't not feel bad. But yeah, just put stuff out, and yeah, Steven said it better than me, but I'm essentially I'm reinforcing what he said. All right, Steven, thank you so much for being here, man. It's always a great time to see you. I've been loving getting to reconnect with you outside of this, and I'm stoked you did this with me. Before you go, we're going to ask you some rapid fire questions. So these are just for fun.
Okay.
And just answer as quickly as you can, whatever.
Okay.
And so one that I always like to ask, because I just love to hear the answer, is what is something of yours musically that you are most proud of? It could be a riff, an album, a song, anything.
Something that I'm most proud of, a riff or a song.
A moment,
I don't.
just whatever. Yeah.
Okay, so getting to open up for Animals as Leaders with Legion's Requiem, and getting to see a whole bunch of like proggy nerds actually get into some like heavy ass music was so much fun. Like, because they came through Sacramento, and my band was on the bill. We got to open just before Naveen Copperweiss, Naveen K played, so we were like direct support for the tour, and like it was packed. The venue was packed, and it was a whole bunch of like, and I say nerds lovingly because I am also a nerd, and I was there to also see Animals as Leaders. But like getting to see them actually physically move around, instead of the whole arms cross the chest, judging stare, nods, and shakes a head. Like actually getting to see people get into the music that I wrote and that I produced and that I worked my ass off for, that I'm headbanging for, and getting to connect with people on that level. Probably one of my absolute most like favorite moments in time.
That's awesome. It really is a great feeling. And so I'm
It is.
definitely glad you had that. Yeah. Who is a guitarist, alive or deceased, that you would love to work with?
Devin Townsend. Just,
Easy. Yeah.
that's it.
Okay, but promise me if you do, you grow a skullet. Please, please.
No promises, but I'll see what I can do.
Dude,
I'll see if the misses will permit it.
It'll be like those, like, if I win the lottery, I won't tell anyone, but there'll be signs. I'm just gonna see you one day, and I'm like, wait, are you working with Devin Townsend?
Skullet dreads on, down to my shoulders. Like, no, dude, I'm not doing anything. It's fine. You're just flopping around. Yeah.
Jacked up on coffee. Yep, absolutely. Cool.
Yep.
Okay, so you're going to a show, you're performing, it's a tour, live, whatever. What are 3 things you must have in your gig bag?
3 things I must have in my gig bag. Tuner, string winder, cable.
Yep.
This is pretty much what I would have in my. I mean, aside from that, if we're talking like tour riders, definitely hot tamales, one of my favorite candies. Some of these like Bear Bell, peanut caramel protein bars. I've been getting into these a lot lately. These are really good.
Nice.
Yeah, that'd be my thing.
Okay. What is a guitarist or album, and honestly, you can tell me as many as you want, that truly continues to inspire you? I feel like Devin Townsend's one of them.
To inspire me. Sure, Devin Townsend. Like listening to Strapping Young Lads Alien is always a good throwback for me. Definitely Gojira is still inspiring to this day. Probably maybe Magma, maybe From Mars to Sirius though. Yeah, still inspiring. Fuck.
Hell yeah.
Love Gojira. Love Gojira.
Awesome. Very cool. And finally, what is some advice, some words of wisdom you'd give to people trying to become stronger rhythm players, or just more well-rounded guitarists in this genre, any genre, but just something you'd want them to hear as they start their journey?
I think we've already talked about the idea of being eclectic and learning and listening to a lot of different styles, but I think that also like there is an element of physicality that is missing from, I think, a lot of people's lives. And I'm talking about just going to shows, being around people, being a better guitarist. I think, because obviously what the first answer that kind of popped into my head was just, you practice. Like, but practice is only like one element. But I think that's something that truly makes you a better musician, better guitarist, is working with other musicians.
I fully agree with that.
I think In a vacuum, you can make some decent music. You can probably make even some great music, but I think that if you really want to just enhance your writing and your ideas, having somebody to bounce those ideas off of will always make you better. So I think that beyond just like the basic answer of like practicing, I think getting out and actually being a part of a metal scene and like working with other musicians, even if it's just random collaborations you do on the internet, like, hey, guitarist that I like and that I follow, let's write something together. I have these riffs. What do you think? I think that to me is something that has kind of been missing over the past, 6, 7, 8 years since COVID. Like, because everybody's at home doing their Instagram guitarist thing, and they just write a couple of riffs and they put some drums to it and they just put it out because algorithms, whatever.
Man of
But I think
riffs.
real. Yes, yes, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No, but I
Let me
agree.
just say
I
that.
agree. Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. But if you really, really want to become a great guitar player, I think that pushing yourself to be in, maybe even if you can work it, being in the same physical location as another guitarist and working together on something.
Please do some shout outs for yourself, where they can find you, what you got going on, and what you maybe want people to know.
Well, I think most relevant to this podcast is my band, Double Bodied Man. We have an EP we are working on. It's instrumental, 6 tracks. 6 tracks that's coming out in the next 2 weeks. So we are going to be making our every 6 month post about that on our Instagram. We don't need to post more. It's just embarrassing. But anyhow, so we got our Double
content
Bodied
guy
Man
here,
EP
guys.
coming out. Yeah, the content guy just sucks at getting content out because it's really when it's not. Like, I'm getting paid to do other people's content, so like it makes my content that I'm not getting paid for like a little bit less of a priority. So I'm like, all right. Anyway, so there's that. If you want to check out any of my socials, the Real Steve Z or the Real Stephen Ward, YouTube channel, make content for some other people. I just made a 35-minute video. Talking about our content earlier. I made like a 35-minute long video on how to EQ your guitar and shape your tone with impulse responses on the Fortin YouTube channel. Yeah, that's pretty much it, I think.
Awesome. Well, please, everyone, go follow him. Go listen to Doubled Body Man. Not me looking to make sure I said it right. And for those listening, please share the podcast, rate the podcast, tell your friends. And if you want to join a community of like-minded players and just a cool place to hang out, share your riffs, and get some insight, join our Discord, which is the Rhythm Dominion. And it's still in the beta section right now. So if you do join right now, just know it's growing. However, we hope to see you there. Please share, and we'll see you next week in the next one.